This is KB4KWZ. We're welcome everybody who wants to join us on the Emergency Communications Training Net. Good evening to everyone. The purpose of this net is to train in emergency communications, what to do during a case of an emergency, how do we communicate during an emergency, and also we'll be talking about the different types of emergency equipment during this, not this particular net time, but future nets down the road. Hopefully we'll have some guest speakers will come in on future nets here and train on particular topics. And if we do, we'll definitely let everyone know, about a week in advance. Tonight we'll be having a demonstration training. Hopefully we'll have the station coming in here in just a minute with a message that will be sent tonight to my station, and we're just going to demonstrate how we send and receive a 213 message form over the air. So saying that, let's go ahead and welcome the stations that are in the net. We have K Delta Niner, Juliet Delta Delta, Billy Marks. We also welcome KB4NET, Bill. And also there's a repeater. Let's see, I think the person operating through the repeater is November Oscar Mike Romeo Zulu Scott. And also the net is pleased to recognize WX4ACO Dave. And also the net is pleased to recognize KK4 Sierra Romeo Oscar. And here's the station we'll be needing tonight is KB4GKI Jimmy up in Wilkes County. Okay, tonight, like I stated before, we'll be training on the ICS 213 form. I know past nets we mentioned about the 213, but tonight we're going to be demonstrating that. Before we get to the demonstration, I don't know how many people have seen the latest 213 ICS 213 form. It's very easy to use, and I'm just going to briefly go over it before we start passing the message here. Basically, the general message ICS 213 form is to be used by the incident dispatchers to record incoming messages that can be orally transmitted to the intended recipients, or to those who are going to be receiving the message. The ICS 213 is also used by the incident command post and other incident personnel to transmit messages. Okay, let me just stop right here. I know in a lot of people's minds is, well, we have the national traffic messaging format here. Well, that's well and good. The 213 is not here to take or get rid of it, by no means. To send a message from one amateur radio station to another amateur radio station, that type of traffic sending is great. But when you're going to send a message from one amateur radio station to an agency, then you need to put that message in an ICS 213 format so that they will understand what they're looking at. This is KB4KWZ. Okay, on the ICS 213 format here, or messaging format, top of the page here of the form, you have number 1, the incident name. Now, you can put an incident name there, or you can just leave that blank. That's an optional space. Number 2, you want to put the name and position to who this message is going to go to. And number 3, from, you want to put your name and position. Number 4, subject, what the message is about. You don't need to get in a long detail on that. Just condense it down, make it short, what the subject is. And then number 5 is, of course, the date. And number 6 is the time. Number 7 is the message body. And then the last line, you have approved by. If you're the one that's sending the message, then of course you'll approve your message. But if another person, let's say somebody, if you're in the EOC and an agency hands you a message and wants you to send it, let's say to the state, then you go over that message with them before you send it, because if there's a misspelled word, you don't want to think that it's misspelled and try to correct it. Who knows? It could be a medical message, maybe a name of a drug that is spelled right. So you want to go over the message with the person, and then once everything looks good, then you put your name. If you're going to be the one sending it, you put your name, your signature, and your position or title. Down near the bottom, you have a number 9. That is a reply. That's the space that you, when you send this message, the reply back will be in that space there. And down at number 10, you have replied by their name, position, title, and signature, and date and time. That is the ICS 213 form. Okay, when we send a message, make sure when you're sending the message, you know, people ask me, what type of speed we send a message at? Well, we send the message at not reading speed, because we probably have some speed readers. You want to send it at writing speed. And one person told me one time is, when you're sending a message, when you're voicing it out, why don't you write it down as you voicing it out? So that'll put you at the right speed by sending it. Okay, that is the brief training tonight. We're going to demonstrate this, hopefully. It's been a good while since I received a message, so I might be a little bit rusty, but the purpose of this, I want y'all to see how it can go by voice. Now, we do have the luxury of the EchoLink, Internet EchoLink, via VHF repeater. So it's going to probably, the message will probably be a lot smoother. Now, a lot of times we won't have that luxury. Sometimes we'll be using HF radio, which everybody knows that on HF radio there's a lot of static crashes. A lot of things can happen where it's going to be a little bit more difficult to receive the message. Okay, this is KB4KWZ, and we will go ahead now and do the message processing here. KB4GKI, this is KB4KWZ, over.
This is KB4GKI. KB4KWZ, one routine practice message at your station, over.
Okay, KB4GKI, this is KB4KWZ. Send your one routine message, over.
This is KB4GKI. Message follows. Number 1, winter storm figures 2017. Figure 2, Kilo Bravo 4, Kilo Whiskey Zulu, Jerry Brewer, / Aries / EC. Figures 3, Kilo Bravo 4, Golf Kilo India / Jimmy Holbrook, I spell Hotel Oscar Lima Bravo Romeo Oscar Kilo. Figures number 4, shelter supply request. Figures number 5, 10 / 21 / 2017. Figures 6, 08 55 AM. Figures 7, need 150 cots and blankets, period. We'll pick up at Surrey / Yadkin County line on US 421 North, 03 PM. Do you need any fills, over?
KB4GKI, this is KB4KWZ. Request fill on item 7 between at and Yadkin, over.
This is KB4GKI. Surrey, Sierra Uniform, Romeo Yankee, over.
This is KB4KWZ, affirmative. One more field after north, over.
Figures 0300 Papa Mike, over.
This is KB4KWZ, that is affirmative, over.
This is KB4GKI, figure number 8, John Doe, position shelter manager, no further, over.
This is KB4KWZ, affirmative, out. Okay, this is KB4KWZ. Guys, that's how you do it. I know Mr. Holbrook and myself, we were old, retired Army Mars guys, and that is a lax version of how we send message. We did use the over, and we did use the word out. We call those pro words. But if you actually heard that be sent in Army Mars format, like Mr. Holbrook stated, last week, you probably walk away and say, those two guys must have really hate each other. But you see, that's how we send a message by voice. Again, the writing speed. You know, we went a little bit slow. And I know when we get on an incident, a lot of things can be going on around us. We can be under stress and pressure. And we want to speed things up and get it over with. But yes, time is an essence, but at the same time, you want to take your time and get it right. And if you don't get the complete message, leave that space blank from the last word you're able to copy and then the next word you're able to copy. And then when the sending station gets through, then you can then request what we call a field, which you state, just like what I said, or ask, I need a field between at and Yadkin. So Mr. Holbrook came back and spelled Surrey. So that's how we do that. So I hope everybody enjoyed that. Sending and receiving messages by voice is not hard. At first, I know if you've never done it before, it can be a little bit intimidating. But the more you send and receive messages, it becomes fun, really. So that is the lesson for tonight. And let's go down to the list here for general comments. Up on the list here, we have KD Niner Juliet Delta Delta, Billy Marks. Good evening, Billy. I hope you enjoyed that little demonstration. You got any comments or questions? Over.
Kilo Bravo 4, Kilo Whiskey Zulu. Good evening, Jerry, and everybody else on the net. I hope everybody's having a good weekend. The only question I might have would be, would the times be given in your local times, or would they be given in the UTI? Over.
Okay, KD Niner Juliet Delta Delta. That is a good question. On an ICS 213 form, you want to use local time, or even in the EOC, they may use the military time. But if you don't know if they're using the military time, just send it as your local time. So don't use Zulu. I tell you, I ran into that one time. Matter of fact, I was deployed several years ago. I think it's the 2012 Democratic National Convention up there in Mecklenburg County in the EOC. And the message, we were using WinLink to send and receive messages. And of course, the WinLink system printed out the messages in the UTC, or what we call Zulu time. And I sent it to one of the agencies, and the first thing they asked was, what in the world is that number? So I had to take the time and convert it back to the regular time. So all these ICS 213 message forms, you want to have it in plain English. The time has to be that everybody can understand. No abbreviation or acronym for something, or any coded messages. Everything got to be in plain English. But a good question there, Billy. That is definitely, it would be in the local time. Over.
Okay, Jerry. Thank you. That definitely cleared that up. I know a lot of people who either haven't been first responders or been in the military get very confused when it comes to Zulu time or Greenwich Mean Time or whatever time format they're using. So yeah, I just wanted to make sure on that. And thank you very much. Hope everybody's having a good weekend. And this is Billy, Kilo Delta Niner, Juliet Delta Delta, standing by.
Okay, KD Niner Juliet Delta Delta. Glad to have you on the net this evening, Billy. And yes, if you're on a net that they're using the military time or the UTC time, then that's okay to use the UTC time. But when we would have to cross over and sending messages to an agency, then the main thing is you don't want to get them to be too confused. You want to keep it in a format that everybody can understand. Okay, let's move on down to Whiskey X-Ray 4 Alpha Charlie Oscar. Good evening, Dave, and your comments for the net.
Good evening, this is WX4ACO, and the comment that I have, that's interesting, the way that message form works, and it's, like you said, it's good to keep everything in plain English, and you also want to use either military or local time, something that's universally understood. So I will make that point again.
Okay, Whiskey X-Ray 4 Alpha Charlie Oscar. Well, Dave, let me just throw this in there. When we are deployed, let's say if I'm deployed at the EOC, more than likely of being in Union County where I live, more likely that's where I'll be ending up if there's an incident. The first thing I want to make sure or ask the incident commander, the COML on duty, or the emergency manager is what time format they like to keep it at. If they want to just have local or military time. Of course, we're not going to use Zulu on them or UTC because that will really mess everybody up. But you want to just clarify that if you cannot get that question answered, just use the local time. But other than that, yes, it's like I said, it's sending and receiving messages is not hard at all. So I sort of enjoyed that. Okay, let's move on down to KK4 Sierra Romeo Oscar Randy. Good evening. Your comments or questions? Over.
Good evening to everyone on the net. This is KK4SRO Randy from Nashville, Tennessee. Just a quick question. I'm guessing that you're going to go on later on and do some more with this WinLink. I'm part of the Williamson County Aries group, and we had our set exercise last weekend. And the point of our exercise was that everybody would use WinLink. And the nice thing is the latest version of WinLink now has all these ICS forms as templates, and the 213 being one of the templates makes it much easier. So basically what you're doing is you're just typing in to WinLink into the form and sending it, and it's all done. You don't have to write anything down, or people on the other end can just send it to the printer and print it off, and it's a done deal. It's very nice what they've done. KK4SRO, back to net control.
KK4SRO, this is KB4KWZ. You're absolutely right, Randy. WinLink did a great job when they added the forms. Not only they have the ICS 213, they have the ICS 214. I think they have the ICS 201 on there, and also they have there's a couple other forms I can't remember right off the bat. But you're absolutely right, especially on the 213. When a agency or somebody else sending a message on the 213, and let's say I'm at the EOC. Let's just say, for instance, Mr. Holbrook was out at the Red Cross shelter, and he is sending a message to my station in the EOC via WinLink on the 213, and it was going to the head Red Cross guy there in the EOC. Basically, I would receive that form just like I'm sitting here looking at the form right now. And like you said, all I had to do is hit print on the printer. It printed out as though I just sat there and typed it. And all I have to do is just take it to the head guy at the Red Cross there in the EOC and handed it to him. And then he can then write his reply down at the bottom on line 9, and all I have to do is just come back and bring up that last message and type that in and send it back to Mr. Holbrook. Yes, it makes life a whole lot easier. And hopefully I'll get one of the guys who head of the WinLink development team in here maybe one Saturday night that can very briefly go over that and the WinLink system. Okay, thanks, Randy, for being here. We might get back in touch with you here shortly. Let's move on down to KB4GKI. Good evening, Jimmy. Thank you for sending that message. I know you got a lot of thoughts and comments. The mic is yours.
Good
Now this is K before GKI. Yep, I caught myself doing some errors, but we made it through it, and that's because we don't send them often enough by voice. Everybody loves to rely on digital, and in a real life situation, number one, you may have an HT and be handed a piece of paper. You may not have a 213 format that is numbered. You may not have a 213 format, period. But luckily, if you do it enough, you'll have the numbers memorized and know what goes beside of each number. For instance, number 3 is the from, number 4 is the subject, and so on. But and I have been in that situation, and it was a joy because it was about 28 degrees, and had to use a relay station to get back to the station that I was trying to send a message. So imagine what kind of fun that would be. Let me let it beat. And in that situation, I was having to stand outside because I was on an HT. The relay station had the convenience of being at home in a nice, warm, comfortable place, and the other station had to be on the outside. But he needed the information, so guess what? It got done. It was a little bit different because it had to be relayed through one station in the middle. But other than that, that's a real life situation. And, until you experience one of them, then you'll say, I know what I need to bring next time, if you've got time to pick it up. K before GKI.
K before GKI, this is K before KWZ. Well, again, I want to say thank you for helping to contribute to the training this evening. And guys, like I mentioned before, Mr. Holbrook used to be the North Carolina State Army Mars Director, and I used to be the training officer. And I know on a lot of our nets, we pull surprise messages. There's times we don't know a message is coming to our station, and all of a sudden, like Mr. Holbrook come up and say, KB4KWZ, this is KB4GKI. And then I come back and say this. Well, actually, we used our Mars call signs, but I'm just using the amateur call sign here. I said, this is KB4KWZ. Go ahead. And then he comes back. I have one routine message for your station. Over. And I'm not even prepared. And but guys, that's how it happens. Messages can occur when you least expect it, especially on the nets that we're having. We can have somebody come in that has an emergency and they need to send a message. So we got to be ready for that. And yeah, digital communications is great. It really is. But, I know that you always got to learn the foundation. And because a lot of times you might not have the opportunity to be sitting in front of a computer that has a WinLink system in it. Like Mr. Holbrook says, you might just have just a piece of paper and an HT, and that's it. Okay, so you don't have any other choice but to do it by voice. If a message does come, the key thing is, I know our hearts want to start beating faster, and we just want to break out in a cold sweat, but just take a deep breath and just don't try to rush through it. Just take each section at a time. Just concentrate on each section, and before you know it, you'll have the whole message written down. So again, Ms. Holbrook, appreciate you sending this message. Do you have any other comments you want to make? Over.
This is KB4GKI. Even on our line number 7, it was not that long of a message, but if everyone noticed what I did at the end of the message before I continued on to the next number, I made sure that he had, or that Mr. Brewer had the complete message. You don't want to go all the way through the message and finish it completely out on any form that you're sending and then discover, well, okay, here he is in number 7 and he's missed 3 words or 4 words or whatever, because he might not ask, you know, what's the word after pickup and between pickup and Surrey. Okay, he might not have caught that. So if he didn't catch it, then that could basically corrupt the whole message. KB4GKI.
KB4GKI, this is KB4KWZ. That's absolutely right. Especially in item number 7, the general message body. You want to make sure that the person receiving it has that copied down completely. One word, like Mr. Holbrook stated, can change the whole message. And that's the reason why I stated at the very beginning, before we I started receiving the message from Mr. Holbrook. I stated earlier that if an agency comes and gives me a message, before whoever leaves that's giving you that message, you want to go over that message with that person first and make sure that the message is complete. Now, if the person sending it or giving it to you is not the one that actually wrote it, and there is a question about it and that person don't know, then that person needs to find out, because once that message is sent, once that message hits the airwaves, it grew legs, it ran, so to speak. You want to make sure that message is correct, the best of your ability. Now, it's not our responsibility to change any wording in there unless the person who is want it sent authorizes you to change it, or they might rewrite a new message and then give it back to you. But just by yourself, we do not have any authorization to change it, because again, that can change the whole meaning of the message if we change something, and that can be very, very detrimental. Okay, that is the lesson as I have it this evening. Again, I want to thank everyone who took the time to check in. I know we have some stations that has already checked out. But before we close the net down, do we have any other stations that are listening who wants to check in? Please do so. And do we have any other questions or comments before we close this evening's session of the Emergency Communications Training Net? If so, call KB4KWZ. Over.
KB4KWZ. I have one more question, Jerry. I'm kind of in an area where I can sometimes, when the conditions are right, pick up repeaters out of Chicago. They're in a different time zone than I am. What would I do in a situation like that? KD9 or JDD? Over.
Let's see. KD9 or JDD. This is KB4KWZ. Billy, I believe what you're asking is if we're sending a message through different time zones, what we put down on the time. Well, basically on the time, what I would do, if I'm the one that is originating the message, and let's say is sending it to you, I know you're in, let's see, I think you're in Central, if I'm not mistaken, up there in Ohio. Then on my time, I would put, let's say, if I'm sending a message right now to your station, I would put 10:10 p.m. Eastern Time, and then the receiving station will know what time zone it's coming. So that's a good question. If I put just 10:10 p.m., well, what time zone that come out of? So I would put Eastern Time on that to clarify it. So I wouldn't go into the 24-hour clock unless if everybody is using that. So anyway, I hope that clarified your question there. I hope I answered it right. Over.
Yeah, Jerry, that clarified that for me. Thank you. And I'm in Indiana, not Ohio, and we are still on the Eastern, but Chicago's not that far away, and they're in Central, so I was just kind of curious about that because I can pick up their nets too, but of course I haven't talked on any of them. I haven't tried. I'm not sure if my HT would reach that far. Probably not, but I was just curious. Okay, thank you very much, and I hope everybody's having a good evening, and I'll be standing by. This is KD9er JDD.
KD9er JDD, this is KB4KWZ. Well, thank you very much for that question. That is a very good question there. Okay, do we have any other questions or comments or any additional stations wishing to check in this evening before we close down the net? If so, please call KB4KWZ. Over. Okay, we do have one station to join us. I'm going to go ahead and hop right in here and welcome this station. It's KG5 Victor Mike Bravo Martin. Good evening, Martin. I don't know if you've been listening to the net this evening. Welcome aboard. You have any comments? Over.
No, sir. All I want to say is thank you for welcoming me to the net, and I'm a new ham operator. I just got my license on the 20th, so thank you for welcoming me to the net.
Okay, KG5 Victor Mike Bravo. This is KB4KWZ. Yeah, that's a new call sign. I know we're up in the G's now. So congratulations on your new license. We're here every Saturday night at 9:30 Eastern Time. So feel free to jump in and join us. You know, this is a good place to start learning about emergency communications, how to use your equipment, your radio in case of an emergency. So we'll be glad to have you. Over.
Well, thank you. I'm going to stand by and listen to the net if that's okay with y'all.
Okay, that's fine, Martin. Again, thanks for hopping in here and looking for you on future nets here. Okay, this is KB4KWZ. I want to thank everyone who took the time to check in this evening's net. This has been a sort of a fun net. It's been a while since I received voice traffic. I was a little bit rusty on my receiving ability, but I caught on very quickly here. So I also want to let everybody know that tonight we are now last Saturday night we had a problem with YouTube. We was not streaming live, but tonight we are streaming live on YouTube. You can also go by and look us up. We do have a website. That's Echo Mike Charlie Oscar Mike November Echo Tango.org. That's EMCOMMNET.org. And at the website, there's a lot of information there. And up at the top, there's a link where you can click and listen to live streaming voice only on YouTube. Okay, this is KB4KWZ. Again, I want to thank everybody who took the time to check in this evening's net, and want to wish everybody a good Sunday coming up and a safe week ahead. And please get the word out. We're here every Saturday night at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time. This is KB4KWZ. Now closing down the net. Out.